Hi all, I very much enjoyed our time together today and wanted to offer some thoughts about today and then moving into next week. Next week it's chapter 3. Chapter 3 is on relaxation. As discussed in class, you will learn and be introduced to a variety of breath manipulation practices so that you can have a sense of the way one of the settling techniques, relaxation, and one of the relaxation methods, slowing down the breath, which is very readily available to us, can be done in a variety of different ways. There are new recordings that have been added to the So Be Mindful app. You'll want to update the app so that you'll have access to those. They'll be at the very bottom, where I will talk you through each of those 3 practices. In the chapter, you will be able to read a little bit about them, but you can, in listening to those recordings, which range from I think 6 to 12 minutes, you can practice them and have a deeper understanding of them. As discussed in class, it is not the intention that you need to learn and practice them all and find them all to be a part of every day, or that you find any of them to be useful. If ultimately there's one or one of the variations that we'll be exploring over the course of the semester and that you probably in many ways have already been introduced to, one that you have as a go-to relaxation practice, that would really be wonderful. And so here's an introduction. But the introduction to relaxation is really meant to help us to have a deeper understanding of mindfulness by understanding the overlap and the arguable distinctions between relaxation, being more relaxed, and mindfulness, we could say being more mindful. So don't forget to update and or download the So Be Mindful app. Snow globe, we did a bit with the snow globe today. You'll read more about that in the chapter for next week. Keep an eye on your snow globe. We know in our discussion I shared this very wonderful poem by Rumi called The Guest House. And just to very quickly get to that key line, welcome and entertain them all. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a meanness, a depression. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Now, all of that you could know from your own experience sitting and doing a focused attention or a body scan practice. That which he shares is known from our direct experience. He then offers this guidance in the next line. Welcome and entertain them all. Now we could say that sounds like a nice idea, but how do we do that? And we're exploring that. And so the first sort of step in that journey is to observe what's arising. And that's what we're doing in the practice. We talked about the snow globe today, and in many ways how it is that one of the reasons that the snow globe settles is because we are observing the snow globe, that the act of observation is a mechanism of settling. And that's not necessarily the way we naturally think about things. We think we need to do something to fix something or do something to make things settle, and we can. And sometimes that is the thing to do. Taking a slower, deeper breath in a very sort of, to take one easy way of speaking to this, that can be very helpful for relaxing. So too, noticing and observing the snow globe can be hugely helpful and is, along with doing a relaxation practice, on the path to what it means to welcome and entertain them all. And so this week, as you learn the body scan, the next practice, and we just had a little taste of it at the end of class, it is a focused attention practice, but we move through different parts of the body, noticing the sensations. And so it's similar and it's different, and we'll look forward to talking about our experience with the body scan next week. Importantly, you practice the body scan at least 3 times, and the focused attention practice at least twice. Today's first practice that we did was a focused attention practice, so that really doesn't count. So 3 meaning towards these 3 body scans and 2 focused attention. But one of the focused attention will be when you're sitting with your crayons and your journal, and on the creative page you're drawing that image that you'll see on a regular basis each day, which can remind you to practice stop. And so this week, if you would, each day when you go out and you see that image, practice stop, to stop, take a breath, maybe a slower, deeper breath, to observe what's in front of you, that image, that view, and then to proceed, whether the view is the elevator or whether it's two palm trees, whatever it may be. Importantly, the drawing of it might be helpful as it relates to reminding us to practice. So we'll talk about that next week. And remember, if you would, that this recording, for example, I hope to get up today so that when many of you look at, today's Friday, when many of you look at the assignment page, you'll see it. But it could be that you looked at the assignment page right after class, you got all the information, and you're not going back to it, which is totally, like, good for you. You're on top of it in a really rich way. That's why, while many of you probably will see this when you go to the webpage, because I hope to have it up by later today, I'll also be putting it on the playlist. So if you get the link to the playlist, you'll be able to see that it was added, and then you'll have the option of listening to it or watching it, and it's through the playlist that you would know that it was added. If I add something after, the little bit after class that I think is really important, as I shared, I will communicate that to everybody, so you don't have to be a mind reader, and I wouldn't want you to allocate the time and the energy to try to engage in that futile endeavor. Roxette, thank you very, very much for spraying the lavender. And thank you all for a really nice morning. If when we put our hands up on how tired you were in the 1 or 2 range, as I do, please consider Thursday getting to bed earlier, having a game plan. If you would want to be a 4 or a 5, know that that certainly is relevant. And of course, you lead yourself however you feel the best. But we do have 3 hours together. We do spend time, sitting. Today was a day where I think there was a lot of good insight that was shared and a deeper understanding of attention. But also it gets a little, I think, abstract and conceptually rich. And that conceptual richness can be one of the ways to have a more experiential, deep understanding of what we're doing. And if we're tired and distracted, it can be hard to grasp that. So I say that for 2 reasons. One is, be patient. Even if you're alert and focused and raring to go, it still is elusive. So be patient. I would say if in 3 weeks or so, some of the things that we've been exploring are still not clear, we'll have an opportunity to talk about them. If there's anything that we've been talking about that you think is interesting enough, but you're not getting it or you're not quite sure, please reach out. We can set a time to talk, we can Zoom, we can meet, and or you can communicate it by way of email or texting. And also, the second reason why I mention that is because practice really is the way that we will conceptually understand much of what we're talking about. We tend to think in law school, as is quite useful much of the time, that we want to intellectually understand something so that we can then deliver on it. Here, the intellectual understanding of attention and various other things that we'll be exploring is quite useful and interesting, but it's doing a mindfulness practice and paying and drawing our attention in a deliberate way that we really understand, in my experience, at a deeper level, and there's clarity around the kinds of words that we put to trying to explain this because we actually understand it firsthand. So, patience, practice. Wishing you all a wonderful weekend and a good week. I look forward to seeing you next Friday.